Why do you procrastinate? You have something you need to do. You know exactly what it is. You know it won't take that long. You know you'll feel better once it's finished. And yet somehow you're watching a video, checking your phone, making coffee, cleaning something that wasn't even dirty. You tell yourself you'll start in 5 minutes. Then 5 minutes becomes 20. Then an hour. And the strangest part is that you know you're doing it while you're doing it. You're not confused about what you should be doing. You're choosing something else. So here's the question. Why would you knowingly choose what you know you'll regret? Socrates had a radical answer to the problem. He believed that if you genuinely knew what was good, you would do it. Nobody, in his view, knowingly chooses what they truly believe is worse. If you understand that something is good for you, and understand that its opposite is harmful, then why would you deliberately choose the harmful thing? It sounds obvious. Until you notice yourself doing exactly that. You know you should work. You know scrolling won't make you happier. You know the deadline is getting closer. And still, your hand reaches for the phone. So either Socrates was wrong, or our idea of knowing isn't as simple as we think. Because there is a difference between knowing something intellectually and having that knowledge actually control what you do. Aristotle recognized the problem. He called it akrasia, weakness of will. You can know what you ought to do and still fail to do it. The smoker knows the cigarette is harmful. The student knows the exam is coming. The person lying awake at 2 in the morning knows they should have started hours ago. The knowledge is there. It just isn't winning. And that's what makes procrastination so strange. You're not choosing between good and bad in the abstract. You're choosing between two things you value right now: the future benefit of doing the work, and the immediate relief of not doing it. An immediate relief has a powerful advantage. It's immediate. This is why procrastination often doesn't feel like a decision. It feels like relief. The task is sitting there. Maybe it's difficult. Maybe it's boring. Maybe you're not sure you'll do it well. You open your laptop. You see the blank document. And suddenly your phone becomes very interesting. One notification. One video. One article. One completely unnecessary trip to the kitchen. The distraction doesn't have to make you happy. It only has to make you feel different. For a moment, the pressure disappears. And that's enough. This is where the modern world becomes almost perfectly designed for procrastination. There is always something else available. You don't have to sit with boredom. You don't have to sit with uncertainty. You don't even have to sit with your own thoughts. The moment something becomes uncomfortable, another stimulus is one tap away. But this creates a strange loop. You avoid the task because you don't want to feel uncomfortable. Avoiding it gives you temporary relief. The unfinished task remains. That creates more anxiety. So you seek more relief. And now you're not avoiding the work anymore. You're avoiding the feeling created by avoiding the work. And this is where an idea from Blaise Pascal becomes surprisingly relevant. Pascal spent a great deal of time thinking about what he called divertissement, diversion. His argument was that human beings are remarkably good at keeping themselves occupied so they don't have to confront themselves. We hunt, we gamble, we gossip, we work, we chase status. We fill our days with noise, not necessarily because these things are what we truly want, but because they give us somewhere else to look. Procrastination can work the same way. Sometimes you're not avoiding the assignment. You're avoiding what happens when you sit down to do it. Maybe you might fail. Maybe it won't be as good as you imagined. Maybe you'll discover that you're not as prepared as you thought. Maybe you'll have to make a decision you've been postponing. Maybe the task simply forces you to confront the fact that time is passing and you can't keep putting things off forever. So you reach for something else. The phone, the kitchen, the inbox, anything. Not because you consciously decided, I would rather waste an hour, but because for a few minutes, you get to stop feeling what you were feeling. This is why calling procrastination laziness can be misleading. Sometimes laziness really is laziness, but often the thing you're avoiding isn't the task. It's the experience of beginning, the uncertainty, the boredom. The possibility of failure. The possibility of discovering that the thing you imagined would be difficult is actually difficult. And this changes the question. Instead of asking, "Why can't I make myself do this?" you can ask, "What am I expecting to feel if I start?" That question is harder, but it tells you something useful. Because if the answer is boredom, you can tolerate boredom. If it's uncertainty, you can tolerate uncertainty. If it's fear of failure, you can notice the fear without obeying it. You don't have to make the feeling disappear before you begin. That's the trap. We keep waiting to feel ready. We wait for motivation. We wait for the discomfort to go away. But sometimes the discomfort isn't a signal to stop. It's simply the price of starting. Maybe that's the deeper problem with procrastination. We imagine that the opposite of procrastination is discipline. Sometimes it is. But perhaps the first step is something smaller. Stop negotiating with the feeling. The task is boring. Fine. Start anyway. You're uncertain. Fine. Start anyway. You might fail. Fine. Start anyway. Because the goal isn't to become the kind of person who never wants to procrastinate. That person probably doesn't exist. The goal is to stop treating every uncomfortable feeling as an instruction. You can feel resistance and still move. You can feel bored and still begin. You can be afraid that the work won't be good enough and still write the first sentence. The 5-minute delay feels harmless. And sometimes it is. But repeated often enough, those 5 minutes become something else. A habit of turning away. And maybe that's what procrastination ultimately reveals. Not that you don't care about the future, but that, in the present moment, you're always being asked to choose between the person you want to become and the feeling you want to escape. And the choice usually happens quietly. One click, one notification, one more minute. So the next time you catch yourself procrastinating, don't immediately ask, "How do I force myself to work?" Ask something stranger. What am I trying not to feel? Because maybe you're not running from the task. Maybe you're running from yourself, and the task was just standing in the way.